Welcome, everybody. Um, just to conclude on the topic we've been discussing on skills, ability, talent, and giftings. I've shared a lot of insights based on the understanding I have, and I've seen the response of everybody. But some people just want me to clarify a little bit further, and I'll try to do that by using two examples from the scriptures. I'm going to use two individuals who rose to, in these modern times, the pinnacle of their careers. So just to further buttress the point I've been making as regards your talent and the gift and when to require compensation. And so today we'll be looking at the lives of Joseph and David. Now, Joseph was I think the 12th child, the 11th son of his father, one of the patriarchs of the Israelis, Jacob. He was actually his favorite son, which was someone, and his father did not even hide the fact that he really liked Joseph, because Jacob liked Joseph's mother very much. Was the mother Joseph's mother was his preferred choice. Unfortunately, she didn't have enough. She didn't have children early, and so Joseph's mother's sister, who Jacob also married, um, started giving birth while Joseph's mother could not even conceive anything until finally God answered this prayer and he got Joseph and Joseph's younger brother, I think Benjamin. So this is the setting. Joseph was living with his father, and because of the love his father had for him, Joseph's father showed him special preference, showed him special likeness, and he was always keeping with him. When he sent his older brothers to the field to go and tend the sheep and to look after the flock, Joseph too sometimes would go, but he always kept Joseph closer to him. So Joseph was more or less at home. We can say more or less domesticated in quote, if I can use that language. He was always at home, and I mean, so he understood domestic affairs, how to run the affairs of the household, which will see later in life. It's a function of the skill set that God has given and the assignment and purpose which God has called him into. And but he had a unique gift. He could dream dreams and he could interpret dreams. And so he was always dreaming, and he dreamed that the stars and the moons and everything bow down before him. You know, he dreamed that all the leaves, the leaves and the plants of his brothers bowed down before him, which basically was saying that he was going to be the leader and ruler of over his brothers and his parents and his household. And so, because he was a young chap, he was just manifesting at his talent and gifting level. He shared the his dreams with his brothers, even though his brothers really hated him because of the way his father treated him and the way treated the other ones. But he now aggravated the hatred towards him when he started telling them about his dreams, and they felt like, look, you're the youngest, and are you going to come and rule and reign over us? The same dream he told his father, and his father too, being a much more older person, understood the dream. Did not tell anybody. And he also told Joseph not to tell anybody. But Joseph, being a young, naive child, shared the dream, which buttressed the point I'm saying about your talent and gift. It was his natural gift, it was his natural God ordained talent, and was just sharing it. Okay, but which brought him enmity, but he didn't understand the skill necessary in administering affairs of life. So as time went on, and again, because Joseph was young and was honest, he also go and report his brothers to his father when he get back home. And the few times or the times he went with them to the field, and how they were unfaithful and untrusting, how they were cheating their father from his flocks, and all the illegal or shady things they were doing with their father's flocks. So this created a scenario at home that they really hated Joseph. And so one day they conspired to kill him when he was out with them in the fields. They conspired to kill him, and unfortunately, by God's divine intervention, a suggestion was made that instead of killing him, they should just sell him to into slavery and make money for him, since they said, well, killing him will not bring them any profit. So they all agreed, and they sold Joseph into slavery to merchants, and those merchants were actually going to Egypt. And so the merchants took Joseph from the land of Canaan where he was, and they took him to Egypt. And in Egypt, he was sold into slavery to a very prominent ruler, a man called Potiphar. Potiphar happens to be more or less like the captain of the guard of Pharaoh. Pharaoh, the name of the kings of Egypt then was Pharaoh, and as at that time, the pharaohs were very much in control of the affairs of the Middle East, if not even the world. Then they were probably the most powerful empire as at that time in the known world. So they sold Joseph into slavery to Potiphar, and Joseph was living in the house of Potiphar, who happens to be the chief of guard or the captain of guard, what we can say like the chief security officer of the president of a country, maybe like the head of the CIA or something. So he was his domestic staff, and because of the gifts and the talents and some of the administrative skills, domestic administrative skills that Joseph had gotten from his father's house, and the presence of God upon him, he was able to flourish, he was able to prosper. And he performed excellently well in the house of Potiphar, that Potiphar trusted him so much. And Potiphar led every of the administrative activities in his household to Joseph. The only thing Potiphar really bothered himself about was his food. But everything else, Joseph was in charge. And I believe during the course of this, Joseph would have maybe dreamed dreams and interpreted dreams of to Potiphar and all that. But the Bible records that Joseph was a very handsome, tall, energetic guy. And so Potiphar's wife took notice of him and wanted to have an affair with him. And it recorded that several times Potiphar's wife kept making advances towards him. This kept on and kept on and kept on until a particular day that Potiphar's wife invited Joseph, and in a usual manner tried to seduce Joseph to go into bed with him. But Joseph, being a honest, being a trust person, but being naive and not yet skillful, even though his talents and gifts were there and he was developing his skill, decided to say, no, I'm not going to do this. And while he was running away, was fleeing, the wife shouted, more or less set him up and claimed that Joseph was trying to rape her. Everybody came. Joseph was gathered. Joseph was bundled, as you see in another parlance, and he was held down. Potiphar came home, and the wife narrated the story. And Potiphar, who had trusted Joseph, you would have believed that Potiphar, who had trusted Joseph very well, who knew Joseph's character, did not even budge, just believed his wife, and put Joseph in prison. And so Joseph was in prison again for the second time. And while he was in prison, he was doing his normal activities, I believe dreaming dreams. But because he had a natural tendency for people, which is an important factor in life, no matter how skillful, no matter how talented you are, you must have good attitude that reach towards people. And so he would, do his duties very well, organize himself, organize his co-prison mates there. That the warden, the head warden, the chief warden in the prison noticed him and said, look, this guy is very excellent. He does his job very well, And he put Joseph in charge of the prison. Imagine. He said, look, okay, you just coordinate the activities of the prison, all the prisoners, you just handle them. And so he became, of course, the head prisoner, because he had some skills that were being manifested, basically administrative skills, organizing organizational skills. And in one of those days, he noticed that two people were sad, that their countenance has changed and they were not really happy and as lively as they used to be. And so, in his usual characteristics of getting involved interested in people's welfare and well-being, he went towards the two persons and said, hey, I see that today your countenance is changed. What's going on? And both of them now told him that, look, we had a dream, and they didn't understand the meaning of their dream. Ironically, these two persons were Pharaoh's chief butler and Pharaoh's chief baker. And so they narrated their dreams to him that, oh, well, one side the baker said, well, I was carrying my a pot of pastries and bakery stuff that I usually give to Pharaoh as usual, and I found that some birds came and flew and ate everything. The other one said, look, I was doing my normal activities as I used to do before when I was in favor with Pharaoh, and I found out that I saw Pharaoh again. And so David, the gifts, the talent, the gift that God has given him came into play. He interpreted the dreams and said, you, the chief butler, you will restore back to your position in a few days, in a very short while, and you, in a few days, in a very short while, too, you, the baker, you'll be executed. And it happened according to what Joseph said. It happened according to what Joseph said. Not too long later, the chief baker was executed, and the chief butler was restored back to his position. Now, as at the time, Joseph interpreted the dream of the butler and the baker. He told the butler, he said, please, when you get restored back to position, remember me and mention me to Pharaoh. And that way, it was more or less negotiating his own release. Like, look, I've showed you favor, and show me favor back too. It was a form of what? Asking for compensation. But the Bible says that 2 years went by. The butler didn't even remember Joseph at all, until Pharaoh himself had a dream, or had two dreams. I could not understand the meaning of the dreams, and all his wise men could not interpret the dreams. Then Pharaoh, the chief butler, now said, wow, oh, I remember my mistake. Pharaoh, you see, when I was in prison, there's a young man there who interpreted my dream and the dream of the chief butler and the chief baker, and what he said concerning us came to pass. I think you should reach out for this person who is in captivity, who is in prison. He's not even an Egyptian. He's an Israeli. He's a Jew. Speak to him. Maybe let's call him, and maybe he'll be able to interpret your dream to you. And Pharaoh agreed. They brought Joseph before Pharaoh, and voila, Joseph interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh. And when he interpreted the dreams, he also gave him the solution to the interpretation of the dream. And Pharaoh was very impressed. I said, wow, can we find another man in this whole of this kingdom who has such wisdom and understanding? Because Joseph was operating at his level of gift and talent, he was able to dream dreams and interpret dreams, which had happened since he was a child. And so he interpreted it, and by this, Pharaoh decided to compensate him and give him a position of leadership. Some said he made him the prime minister. Some accounts will say he was in charge of the domestic affairs or internal affairs. Whatever the situation, Joseph was given a prominent position in the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said that only in the throne will I be higher than you. So more or less the second in command of the affairs in Egypt and the entire empire as a whole. And therefore Joseph began to walk, told them the solutions about the dreams. Okay, Pharaoh had dreams of 7 years of famine and 7 years of plenty. And he said, in 7 years of plenty, I'm paraphrasing. I'm just going because I don't want to bother you with all the details. But he told them, look, there'll be 7 years of plenty where we should need to store up a lot of items and food, and then 7 years of famine will come in with 7 years of hardship and economic challenges and disaster. What you call recession right now, and therefore whatever we save, they'll do in terms of plenty and abundance and of economic boom, be able to sustain us during times of the recession. And so it happened as Joseph did, as Joseph said. There was first 7 years of massive economic boom, and so they stored up, and then followed 7 years of economic hardship, what you call recession. And the recession was so severe throughout the land that the first thing after the members of the society, after the population had finished up their own personal store of food and items, they came to Joseph and said, Joseph, look, we finished our own store. Can you give us some more grain from the coffers of Pharaoh that you are in charge of? Joseph said, well, okay, if I'm going to give it to you, you have to give me some money. So they gave him some money, and he gave them the food items they needed. Sooner than later, they used up, they ate up all that. They came back to Joseph again and they said, Joseph, we are finished. We need some more food. Joseph said, well, what would you give to me? They said, okay, we'll sell you our land. And so they sold the whole of the land to Joseph on behalf of Pharaoh. So all the lands belonged to, in exchange for food, they gave their lands to him. They said, well, the land's not even profitable, so what's the use of the land? So they sold all the land to Pharaoh. And so Pharaoh became the owner of the whole of the land in Egypt. Practically most people don't have any land anymore. So you give them food because they need to survive. After a while, they ate up the food and they were still farming. They came back to Joseph again and they said, Joseph, we're hungry, we don't want to die. I said, okay, what do I do? You don't have money, you don't have land. They said, well, you know what? We will sell ourselves to Pharaoh. And so they sold themselves to Pharaoh for food to show how severe that recession was. And so their land, their livelihood, their properties, their lives, their children belonged to Pharaoh. So Pharaoh became the absolute ruler. And Joseph gave them food until the recession was over. Now, the point I want to also observe right now, yes, you can watch the trajectory of Joseph from his father's house. From childhood, he could dream dreams, he could interpret dreams. Maybe I put an extra twist, he could even interpret visions. But because of the call and assignment God has given him, he was found around the house. He was very domesticated, so he understand administrative skills. Then he got into the house of Potiphar. His dreams and favor probably brought him to the house of Potiphar because of what God allowed him. And he was also in charge of administration. But he was not skillful at negotiating very well. That was why he got into trouble with Potiphar's wife. That landed him into trouble again. When he went into prison again, and when he got into prison, his skills of administration also was noticed, and he was in charge. So he was always in charge. You can see how the skills are being developed, because skill is not just a physical thing. It's a combination of the knowledge, information you acquire, and how you manage them. Remember, I said skill is an acquisition of knowledge, information, and the constant practice, rehearsal, and continuous practice. That's when you get skillful at something. If you do it right now, you don't do it very well. You make a mistake. You learn. Nature, God will give you an opportunity to learn again. So, and the more you go, the more skillful you become, the higher you go. From his father's house to Potiphar, now to the prison, and now to the whole of the kingdom of Pharaoh's house. So you can see there's a graduation in the skill level because of his competence, because of the knowledge he acquired over time. When he didn't acquire the knowledge that was necessary, he was more or less demoted, or was put in a position where he would learn and again. And as he was being put in those positions, his talents and gifts were the one that was what? Noticing him. Notice, it was because he was able to interpret the dreams of the butler that got him noticed. And he was not well compensated in terms of finances. He was not compensated because he was just a prisoner. So the point is that his giftings, his talents located him, caused him to be known. All right? But it was his skill level that got him to be compensated, get him to a position of leadership, administrative positions. It was not just his talent. His talent just got him to be noticed. When he got into before Pharaoh, because his talent got him to be noticed and got him to be identified, it is his gifting, it is his skill level, managerial skills, administrative skills, that got him into a position where he was what? Made a prime minister. Because of the education and the learning he has learned over the years. And his attitude. Because like I said, your gifting and talent will get you noticed. Your skills will get you into position and get you compensated, but your attitude will maintain you at whatever level you find yourself. So he got into Pharaoh's service. But when he was being promoted from the prison to Potiphar's house, to the chief, to the prison warden, and then into Pharaoh's service, he never asked for anything, because his talent was the one getting him there, and therefore he was just manifesting his skills. But when he got to a position of leadership where his skills had been more or less at the peak level, and when people required his service this time around, he started asking for compensation, because when they came to ask for food, and the people of the world came to ask for food, he started asking for compensation, because he's already now at the pinnacle of his career. And so he asked for compensation every time. But while he was still growing up, he was not really asking for compensation because he was at the mercy. But it was his giftings, it was his talents, and probably his attitude that kept him, that sustained him there, that got him to be noticed. So, like I said earlier on, you don't really get compensated for your talent. You get compensated for your skill level. Because Pharaoh saw, and people saw how he administered the 7 days of 7 years of abundance, the bumper harvest, the blooming period, and I saw the things he did, he put in place. People said, okay, this guy has got some skills, administrative and managerial skills. And so when the times of farming came in and they needed him, he was able to transact the business very well and ask for compensation for his services. So please note, you only get paid for the skills and the skills levels you have or you have acquired over the years, while your talents and your gifting just get you to be noticed and get you into the door. Thank you.